Hey everyone, it's Selwen here, bringing you the BM Hunter. Now, the BM Hunter, like most classes so far, most specs rather, in Shadowlands, hasn't gotten a great deal of changes, but we do get a couple of modifiers, a couple of new things in our talents, a couple of unpruned abilities, very cool unpruned abilities, and our covenant abilities as well, and some other things that will come in the future, like soulbinds and legendaries and stuff like that, but so far we cannot test that. But what we can test now, what we gotten, is enough to make what is the current BM Hunter a little bit more exciting. Like, a lot of people meme on BM Hunter. I think that BM Hunter has its place, and it's a relaxing spec, right? It's just a relaxing spec that you can play. And again, the new things that we're getting are quite exciting for BM. It is making the spec a little bit more, again, exciting, a little bit more interesting. So what is our imprint abilities that have improved the spec a little bit? Well, I think the biggest one is, of course, Kill Shot. Yes, it is indeed back, and I don't think that any hunter is going to complain about getting Kill Shot back. Now, obviously, this is something that is so much more awesome in MM, in marksmanship, and we'll get there in time. But even in BM, even without our talents specifically focusing on it like MM has, it still is an awesome ability to resort to. It feels fantastic, and it's yet another ability that we have that is not reliant on our pets. It's something that our player character does, and that makes BM Hunter, at least for me, a little bit more engaging in a way, because the spec over the years has become so pet orientated, which is pretty self-explanatory as to why, but you did lost a couple of cool abilities that our player character could do, and Kill Shot does improve the BM in that area. So very awesome. We also getting something weird like Arcane Shot. Where is it? Like Arcane Shot. I don't even have on my keybinds. It doesn't make any sense, okay? It costs focus. It deals a little bit less damage than Cobra Shot. There's really no sense as to why we've gotten Arcane Shot, besides the fact that, well, for nostalgia's sake, I guess. But yeah, it doesn't make any sense at all. It's practically worthless. And we get Eyes of the Beast. Yes, a lot of people love this, and but it's not working now, so I cannot show you, which is very sad. But anyway, we're getting that at some point. Okay, and well, we did get a nerf, but it's a nerf that's affecting every class, every spec in the game, and that is on Beast Cleave. It has a target cap now of 5 targets. Now, again, this is something that every spec is suffering, so it's not just a BM specific to BM, a nerf specific to BM. But yes, it does harm us quite a lot because we rely on Beast Cleave a lot in AoE, and it was a little bit ridiculous. I think we can all agree on that as well. So it's warranted, but again, it's something that is affecting everybody. Okay. And actually, besides that, we also have target caps on Barrage, whatever you want to pronounce it. So if you think about resorting to that and a way to replace the Beast Cleave, yeah, it does have a target cap of 8 targets as well, as opposed to 5, but still. Okay, so that pretty much covers our unpruned abilities. Again, the biggest thing is obviously Kill Shot. It is amazing. Well, actually, I did forget because it's such a simple ability. It's Hunter's Mark. Now, Hunter's Mark, it's a little bit weird because just like Wind Fury Totem on the Shamans that we discussed on the enhancement video, it's a cool ability. It's a very nostalgic, a very thematic ability of Hunters. In a way, I love this ability because it screams Hunter to me because of Classic and all of that. A big part of it is nostalgia, right? It's going to mark your target, it's going to increase your damage by 5%, which is not a whole lot, but obviously is something that you want to have up all the time, really, especially on a priority target. The only thing that sucks about this ability, just like with the Wind Fury Totem, It's just the way that the game works now, as opposed to, say, classic and TBC days, having this ability for you to constantly press after each trash pack and stuff like that, after each mob, is a little bit tiresome. Now, I'm not asking for them to remove it or anything. I want it to stay. I'm just saying that, yes, it can get a little bit annoying to constantly press Hunter's Mark. I'm not gonna lie. It's gonna be subjective if you're gonna find it fun, quote unquote, or annoying. So yeah. So we get to our talents. Now, our talents, just like our, abilities, nothing too big, but we do have a couple of interesting things. So our Scent of Blood changed to now provide 2 barb shots when you press Bestial Wrath. So this is essentially our trait that we have now on the aspect of the wild that also provides 1 charge of barb shot. Now, I do like this, but I also dislike this. So the cool thing about this is that this is going to allow you, for an example, to, on pulls, to say dump 2 charges immediately of barb shot and then go for a Bestial Wrath, and then you go for another barb shot, and you immediately, on your openers, immediately at the start, you're going to get to the 3 charges really quickly. This is essentially what it's providing. And then in the middle of the fight and stuff like that, you're just gonna get, more charges and stuff like that, which will equal more Bestial Wrath, which will equal more, more pet damage from the buff itself, and etc. etc. The only thing I don't like about the ability itself is because since it's tied to Bestial Wrath, you do have munching in the CD reduction of Bestial Wrath itself. Because, for example, in the opener that I just did, you lost, 24 seconds of potential reduction of the CD of Bestial Wrath, right? And you could say, well, use Bestial Wrath first, but then you lose the charges that the talent is providing. So it's a little bit counterintuitive there. I mean, losing the 24 seconds or whatever in your openers and stuff like that is not a big deal. It just kind of annoys me a little bit. So I would kind of prefer this to be tied to aspect of the wild. I think it would make a lot more sense. Either way, it's pretty neat to just provide a bigger burst in a way. Then we got Spinning Cobra, which has changed as well. It's a little bit neat. It's neat. I kind of like it. It's a little bit bugged right now because the Cobra that it summons just stands in place. But essentially, when you go into Bestial Wrath, every Cobra shot that you deal is going to stack up a buff. And then at the end of Bestial Wrath, you're going to summon a Cobra. And depending on how much shots you shot, it's going to increase its damage by 10%, okay? So it's going to summon the Cobra, much like the talent which is now gone that you currently have, the Spinning Cobra talent. Now, I like this because it's essentially incentivizing or emphasizing good uses of Bestial Wrath with your Cobra shot, which kind of aligns well with Killer Cobra, the last tier talent. The only annoying thing is because when you summon the Cobra, you're not going to have Bestial Wrath, so you're not going to, buff that pet as well, even though I'm not entirely sure if it could also get the buff, but hey. But yeah, I do like it in some ways, because just providing, again, extra damage through, depending on how well you did during that window, which I do like that part of the ability. How good it will be in terms of numbers, well, we shall see. Then we got Stomp, Barrage, and Stampede. Now, I just want to mention this talent because, again, Barrage now has a target cap as well. So it kind of lost its appeal. I think one cool thing about Barrage is just, spraying enemies. So having a target cap kind of sucks, even though that 8 enemies is still quite a lot. But the weird thing is, at least currently, again, this is alpha, things may change, is that Stomp is still hitting all targets. So this, like right now, clearly you want to take Stomp all the time. Now, Stampede did get a cooldown reduction to 2 minutes instead of 3, and I love Stampede. I love Stampede so much. It's such a cool ability, even though I did prefer it when it was tied to your stables, not random, pets, animals. It just kind of sucks that it's tied on this tier, and Stampede is such a cool thematic ability to BM hunters, even though we don't really want another cooldown, because we have so many that will induce global cooldowns, and we're going to talk about that next. But Stampede is so cool, and I wish we could take this more. That's all what I mean. So in the last tier, the only one that has changed really is the new one, which is Bloodshed. Now, Bloodshed is essentially a new kill command in a way. It kind of behaves in the same way, like your pet immediately goes, and it will apply a bleed, which deals quite a lot of damage actually. And it will increase the damage that your pet will deal by 15%. So obviously this is something that you want to combine, that you want to combo with Bestial Wrath, so your pet deals a lot more damage, and so on. With your barb shots as well, with your Frenzy, and etc. And that's fine, it competes well enough with these other two. Numbers will kind of decide on that as well, which I don't want to test, I'm just testing how it feels. And how it feels is a little bit crap, because even though the ability, it's fine, it's not super complicated, it's just press it and you want to make sure that it's going to combine with your other pet buffs and pet modifiers. The part that sucks is global cooldowns, because currently BM, in my opinion, has a global cooldown issue, just like Frost DKs and Frost Mages and so on, of which you have a lot of cooldowns that do incur the global cooldown. So for example, Bestial Wrath on a global cooldown sucks giant ass. Aspect of the Wild on global cooldown sucks giant ass as well. And having these two together on global cooldowns already sucked major ass. And now having Bloodshed as well, which is an ability that you want to stack up with Bestial Wrath, pretty much, sucks a lot of giant ass, right? So one of these abilities needs to have the global cooldown removed. Either Aspect of the Wild, either Bestial Wrath. I would say Bestial Wrath to have the GCD removed and keep the GCD on Aspect of the Wild and keep the GCD on Bloodshed and just remove off Bestial Wrath, and this spec would flow so much better. So the only issue really with these talents right now that I can see, obviously someone can disagree, is again global cooldowns. It just gets way too much, and even without it, it's already too much, but with this, just goes overboard, which kind of sucks and is a little bit sad. So yeah, that is our talents, that is how the spec is feeling again. It feels exactly the same as before, just with some spice due to Killshot, and these new two talents like Bloodshed and Speeding Cobra, and Set of Blood to some extent as well. So with that said, let's talk about Covenant Abilities, and it's here where we get more exciting stuff that makes the BM gameplay and playstyle even more exciting within the confines of what BM fundamentally is anyway. Okay, so let's talk about Resonating Arrow. This is your Kyrian Covenant ability, and essentially it's going to fire an arrow that it's on a big radius, it's going to fill a location, area rather, and is gonna cause you to increase your crit chance on those same targets by 30%, which is rather big for BM because your procs, your wild call procs, are based on crits, so this will increase your chance on those procs, which is great. And it's also just this minor little thing of causing you to ignore line of sight. Now this is something that would be very, very good for MM and for PvP. So essentially you can throw this arrow and just hide behind a pillar and still DPS. Now in PvE, again, it's rather niche, but in PvP this is huge. Even though, the players can easily get out of that area, again, rather easily. But still, is pretty cool that you have the ability to do that. Again, in PvE, I can see some situations, some bosses, or even some dungeons where you can utilize this in some really cool ways, and I do really like that. Then we got the Venthyr Covenant ability. This one is more direct, a little bit more fun, even though, again, seems a little bit more centered towards marksmanship hunters, as opposed to BM, which is Flayed Shot. Okay, Flayed Shot is essentially a dot. Okay, you're going to fire this arrow, it's going to provide a dot, and as that dot deals damage, it will provide you a chance at a proc to make your kill shot usable on any target, regardless of their current health. So essentially is a kill shot proc. This feels really nice. Now, again, on BM is not such a big deal, and you already have procs, your wild call procs, you have your Cobra shots to do, your kill commands to do, so it can make a spec a little bit too busy, because you have a lot of things going on then. It can make it more exciting, granted, because, BM is quite a relaxed spec, so this can make the spec, again, a little bit more exciting, a little bit more, vibrant, a little bit more active, but it can also be a little bit busy. regardless of those minor issues, minor comments, it's fun. It's fun getting kill shots. Kill shots feel super satisfying to use, and getting more kill shots is simply fun. Okay, it's simply fun. Then we get the Maldraxxus Covenant ability, which is Death Chakrams. So it's essentially your old Chakram abilities, which I think BM also had back in the day. You're gonna throw these deadly chakrams at your current target, and it will deal shadow damage, and it will, jump to other targets, kind of like a chain lightning, stuff like that. And it's gonna give you focus, which is pretty good. Now this one is a little bit boring. It's just something that you're gonna press. Just have to make sure you're not gonna, overcap focus, and that's really it. It's just more AoE damage. One cool thing about this ability, though, is in Torghast. Now, BM in Torghast is actually really, really fun as well. It's rather easy, due to the spec, how the spec works. But one very cool thing about the Death Chakrams, I'm not sure if I have footage of this, is that you can get an anima power in Torghast for the Chakrams, that each target that it hits, it applies an explosive shot. It means that when you throw the chakrams, it will deal a lot of damage, and then you just see these explosions, boom, 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 boom. It's really fun to do. That actually magnifies the ability to be a super fun ability, but that's again in Torghast only, not in the in the real content, in the real outdoor content and raids and dungeons, stuff like that. But still, I felt the need to point that out because it is stupidly fun. Then we get the Night Fae Covenant ability, which is Wild Spirits. This one is kind of similar to Resonating Arrow in the sense that it will mark the area, this big area, and it's going to apply Wild Mark on all targets for 15 seconds. This mark is essentially Hunter's Mark. It's going to increase your damage to them by 5%. Plus, when they are marked, every ability that you use on those targets is gonna deal extra nature damage, kind of like a proc damage, extra damage essentially to each target that gets hit. So if you do a multi-shot, every target gets hit by a multi-shot, you get some extra damage in the form of nature damage. This is cool for AoE primarily. Again, for BM, it's not a huge deal because our AoE mostly comes from our pets, and our pets are not triggering this specific Covenant ability, at least for now. Maybe they will, but currently they do not. And another bad thing in my opinion, is that you would think that Barrage would be awesome to combine with this ability, because you think, well, if this is marking an area and if each ability is going to trigger this nature damage, you would think that each hit of Barrage is going to proc this I forget the name, this nature damage component, but it doesn't. It just triggers when you first use the ability, and that's it. It felt really bad because I was expecting to get this huge spectacle of AoE damage going on, but it didn't. So it's a little bit sad. So it's not as exciting as I thought it would be, at least not for BM. It is far more exciting again for MM, but still it's nice. It's cool. It's a cool synergy, but nothing too special unless they kind of change the ability to also make it proccable from your pets and stuff like that. So yeah, that pretty much covers our BM Hunter. Do let me know what you think down in the comments. And as always, thank you for watching, and I'll see you all next time.